Hey YouTube, what's happening? Chris here. Want to bring you guys an update today. We're going to be going over Litecoin, Digibyte, TRX, Theta, XRP, and RAVENCOin. And the reason why I'm doing more than the three that I just said, guys, I really appreciate each and every one of you and everyone who is putting down comments. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. There's a ton of them, and I know you guys put your coins that you really want to see, but those are the ones we're going to cover today. They got the most votes, and instead of doing three, I want to do 6. And if you guys could, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell for this video. We're trying for 200 likes. Can't do it without each and every one of you. You guys have been great for me. So what we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be looking at Litecoin, and it's at some very critical, crucial areas. We're going to start out with Litecoin here. We're going to do these in order. We're going to go Litecoin, Digibyte, TRX, Theta, XRP, and RAVENCOin. That's how we're going to do this. So what we're seeing here with Litecoin, we need to see this 20 EMA in green hold, and we need to see the 200-day moving average hold. Now, if those don't hold, guys, I would look down at that green line around $40.46 to see if we have support off there, because that's where we found support once we had this big long push up where we really exploded out of here, and then we almost had that bull flag. We had that nice pullback before we had a little bit more follow through on some good volume down in here. So that's going to be a spot I'm going to see also kind of psychological at that $40 level. So you're going to want to look there if the 200-day and the 20 EMA is broken. Now, guys, you got to see also if this is broken on volume, it could fall farther than that, and we would look for support on this trend line and around this 50 moving average. That's going to be a key area as well. You know, over the past couple weeks, we've kind of been looking at that area. Remember, we were saying that this trend line is what we want to see hold. This could still pull back into here, this 200-day moving average, continue to come down here, then we finally break through with power and conviction on volume, and we come up here and try to test that 5604. That's definitely in the equation. And that's to the downside, down in this area. Now, to the upside, we would have to get up above this 48.58, and then we would come up here and try to test around that 51.56. And guys, here we pushed up, we got rejected, we pushed back up again, had that long wick there, came all the way back down, and then here we didn't even get back up to challenge this again. So that's where I said there may still be a chance, especially with today's candle, depending on where it closed, that we could roll over here. So be prepared for that. That can always happen. So this candle here today is kind of one of those like longer day candles, but you can see we wicked down to this 200-day moving average. We have not wanted to close below that, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 days now, 6 or 7 days, and that's important. You know, just us even defending that for this amount of time is something that's special in this market right now, because in a lot of other coins you're not seeing that. We're not up above the 200-day moving average, so Litecoin still is one of the stronger coins, even though we're down 3.77% today. Now on the RSI, you also see this, guys. Do you see how they're dropping off? So we're losing some strength there. What we would look for is some support here around that 43 or 40, right in that range. We would not want to lose that on the RSI. You know, this definitely could even turn into one of those descending triangles to where we have that flat floor down in here, and then we're having lower highs taking place. 30% of the time, or I'm sorry, 70% of the time they'll break down, and about 30% of the time they'll break to the upside. But it's still way too early for that. We're just going to have to see what happens with this RSI. But for right now, it's definitely going down from where it was. Here we had our high, and you see where the RSI was around that 77, and then we pushed up even higher in terms of price, but our RSI was going down, and that's what we're having. So keep that in mind, pay attention to that. But ultimately what I want to see for Litecoin is this trend line continue to hold, and also we're going to be keeping a very close eye on the 20 EMA and this 200-day moving average. So apart from that, guys, we got to wait to see where the close is today. So that's where we're going to be at Litecoin. The next one we're going to go into is Digibyte. You guys let me know on Litecoin there. What do you think? Do you think we're just going to roll over and we're going to go down and test that trend line, or do you feel like we're going to go back up and try to give that $48 or so another try? All right. Let's see here. Okay, guys, so Digibyte, remember we were talking about these trend lines that we had drawn? We're kind of in this symmetrical triangle. And what happened here was we wicked out. We tried to get out of there, and we got rejected and pushed back down. What's good is we have been holding this 20 EMA, this moving average here. You even see this candle fighting with it right now. We wicked down through it a little bit, but some buyers are stepping in right there. So we're going to have to really pay attention to see if we close up above this today, And if we close up above that, then maybe we can make another attempt at this trend line. If we close below it, we're most likely going to drop down here to this 50 moving average around that 0.0097 is where I would look to see if we found any support. And then anything lower than that, you maybe look at this area, that 0.088, and then it would be this trend line is what ultimately we want to see hold. We want to continue those higher lows. See that here, guys? So this was our doji candle that was put in. We had nice follow through, and then this was our higher low here. We came to push back up, and we got rejected by this trend line. So now it's just waiting to see today's close. Pay attention to this 20 EMA. If we lose it, guys, most likely we're going to be down in here. I promise you that's what will happen. Now, if all of a sudden this gets bought up and this turns into a big hammer candle on nice volume, then we definitely could move up from there, and we could test this high of around off the real bodies, that 0.0143. So I would pay attention to that and keep that in mind. But still, guys, we're looking a little more bearish right now. You can even tell on the RSI. And when I say bearish, guys, I'm not talking long term and all that. I'm just talking right now in the next few days or whatever. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at this day by day, really zooming in here, paying attention. All right, Digibyte's a great project. Litecoin's a great project. A lot of these are very good projects. And in the long term, I believe they will have success. Remember, this isn't financial advice. So right there, guys, we're having our increasing volume that was happening with this drop. So that's where it's going to be interesting, because a lot of times you'll have increasing volume down into, you know, like a hammer candle or something like that, and then it'll actually reverse, and we'd wait for that day tomorrow, the confirmation. But right now the RSI is pointing down. You know, you had your top right here. Our RSI was around 75, and then we tried to push up again, and our RSI only made it to around that 65, so we were losing some strength. So keep that in mind. But downside targets, guys, I'm looking at this area. Then we'd be looking down around in here, around this trend line in that support area, right over in here. And then to the upside, we would be looking to see if we could close up above this 20 EMA, which we did have the golden cross, this 20 EMA over top of this 50 moving average. So that was a good thing to see, but we got rejected on this upper trend line. So pay attention to that. And we're just kind of working in this channel here. And remember, with symmetrical triangles, they can break either way, but mostly they will break with the way of the trend. So keep that in mind. Next one we're going to go to, guys, is TRX. Let's check that out. Tron. I know a lot of people were really looking at Tron, so let's dig into this one a little bit. We'll go to Binance. Alright, so guys, let me fix some trend lines here. It's been a while since we've got to take a look at everything here. Alright, so what we had here in white, we had a trend line break. So we were climbing this trend line right here, and then we actually broke through, and now we've kind of been falling a little bit. But what you're seeing is a hammer candle. Remember, we got to wait for the close, but if we were to close how we are now, we would have a hammer candle on top of that 200-day moving average, which would be good. That would maybe entail that we would start to push to the upside a little bit more. But that's something we're going to have to pay attention to the close. Pay attention to the close of today. If we were to have a hammer candle today and then wait for confirmation tomorrow, we would basically want this hammer candle, and then we would want a candle that looks like this white one here following it the next day to try to push back up and get up over this 20-day EMA and this 50 moving average, because we did have a death cross now. Do you see this 20 EMA over top of the 50 moving average? So that's when your shorter term is crossing down over top of your longer term there. So keep that in mind as well. But I really want to pay attention to this hammer candle that is forming. All right. So guys, let's zoom in a little bit more and see. Now, with the traditional hammer candle, you wouldn't want much of a wick on top. This would still qualify from my Japanese candlestick charting book, everything I've been reading. But you really want to pay attention to this wick. We want it 2 to 3 times as long as the real body. So this would definitely qualify. And you want to see it at the bottom there also coming on volume. That's not a ton of volume, but it's more volume than what we were having in terms of this fall. So also keep that in mind. But pay attention to see if we close up above this today. If we close below it, now for TRX, I would be looking down around this 0.020, and that's where we had this bullish engulfing candle. See how we fell here, and then this bullish engulfing candle on volume, we started to make that move up, and we really got pushed to the upside until we had this shooting star candle. And then we had continuation follow through, and we fell down. So RSI also is still trending down, if you can see that. So we put it about right there. So we're going to have to pay attention. But with this trend line and how we've been going down like this, if we got a break up out of this, so all of a sudden this starts to turn, which you've seen many times, guys. You can even see where it turned right here and started to move. Same concept, but we were to get out of this trend line breaks are extremely powerful. And you would really be moving. And I bet we'd come up here, we'd probably test around this 0.02, and then it'd be probably up around this area where we had that shooting star around that 0.02909 is what I would be looking at. So on the downside, that's our targets. And then we would look also right here, this 0.0171 where we had the bullish engulfing candle as well. This right here, guys. And that's why Japanese candlesticks charting is so important, because when you start to look at these patterns and then you start, you know, adding the volume into it and the Western indicators and all the different things that come into play, you know, it can really give you a leg up. I know fundamentals are extremely important as well, but why not have both? That's my thought process. Why not study the fundamentals but also learn how to trade, so that you know the best times that you possibly can to buy or to sell, and you have, you know, some whereabouts to when you are throwing your money in there. So, you know, that's just me. But right now for Tron, we're at 0.02. We're down 1.91%. And I would really pay attention to that close today. See if we close on that hammer, guys. Next one we're going to get into is Theta. I know a lot of people really enjoy Theta as well. Let's see. Alright, so what's interesting about Theta, and let me grab some water here, guys, just one second. So with Theta, we had this beautiful bullish engulfing candle. We got pushed to the upside into this doji or rickshaw man candle. Then we had a shooting star with follow through down to the downside. And what's interesting though is, remember we were saying pay attention to this 20 EMA because we kept getting back to it. The last time we talked about Theta, we said, you know, a pullback onto that, and that's what we're seeing. We at least see a wick to it, which is interesting, though, because if this is all the farther it's going to pull back and we set a hammer there and we get a nice follow-through candle tomorrow, then Theta could definitely come up here and test this 0.148. No problem. But it's going to we have to pay close attention to how this forms there. Are we going to get that candle with follow through? I can't emphasize the follow through enough, guys. Don't just go off one candle. You want to see confirmation. Now, it's good that we're seeing that in a wick down to that. We're seeing increasing volume, which you would want to see a hammer candle form on some volume. So that'd be decent volume, not the best we've seen. Obviously, you can tell how much more volume here, but we do have the increasing volume into that potential hammer candle, right? We have our 50 moving average crossing over our 200-day moving average, so we're having that golden cross take place on Theta as well. So Theta to the downside, guys, if we did say all of a sudden this body starts getting pushed down here, I want to see this 20 EMA hold. And whenever you get those big air gaps right here, that's a lot of times you're going to pull back onto that. Do you see here? And then you pulled right back onto that 20 EMA. And that's what I was talking about in the last video. So that's why it's always good to just be patient. Really wait for those pullbacks and wait for those closes to happen. The RSI, though, is not looking the best right now, guys. It's at 63, which is a good strong RSI. But you see here where we just kind of had that rollover and we haven't started to get that hooking up yet, where that power is coming back in. There may be some more cool off to come, maybe down into here to where about that 56, and we get like a double bottom off that on the RSI, and then we continue to move higher. But you always want that cooling off process, right? So whenever you have a move like this, something that's really powerful and the strong move, you're going to have most of the time at least a 50% pullback, you know, to that 0.382 to that 0.5 or the 0.618, somewhere in that area before you have your next bounce up or your move up. That's why I said you're always going to have that retracement. So there's no reason to FOMO anything, guys. But in terms of Theta, I would pay attention today. We're down 3.75%. It's at 0.12, so 12 cents there, almost 13 cents. But I would wait for today's close and really wait for confirmation tomorrow if I were to go long on this right now. I still believe there maybe still could be some pullback, guys. You know, and this is also a possibility too. You come up here, you form this, you get follow through, and then you have like a double top right here. So you always got to be aware of that. You would wait to see if you had that breakthrough, that confirmation through all these wicks and these real bodies here. And if you go out, then you can start really looking at overhead resistance as well. And the reason why you're seeing so many wicks on Theta is because the order book's so thin, and when it's so thin, it can be pushed all over the place. See this? These whales, all these long wicks, they're pushed all over the place. So that's why it's sometimes better just to go off the real bodies when you're looking at like support and resistance. So above overhead resistance would be that 0.164, right in that area. But we are getting that rounded bottom. Theta's not looking bad, guys, just overall. So we'll have to see if this trend continues. This is a nice little short-term uptrend with a rounded bottom. We're getting some golden crosses. We're getting a wick down to the 20 EMA, which it's wanting to defend, so it's not looking too bad. Next one we're going to go to is XRP. Let's see, I want some good information for us, guys. Sometimes you really have to look for the right chart just to make sure you get enough data. All right, with XRP, we've kind of been in this symmetrical triangle. Because what we're still having those lower highs here that are coming down, but we're making those higher lows, and we're kind of just grinding on this trend line right here. So we need to pay close attention if we're going to break down through this and test this bottom down around that 25 cents. Excuse me, guys, or if we're going to run up, get up above the 50 moving average in the 20 EMA and come up here and try to test this 200-day moving average, which would be great to get up above that. That's going to be at 37 cents. So the bullish case would be first, guys, get up above this resistance here around 32, and then it would be trying to get up above 36, and then right here with this 200-day moving average, which is acting as overhead resistance for us right now. Remember, with symmetrical triangles, they can break either way. They'll break more with the trend, the overall trend, and our overall trend is still down. Our macro trend is still down, but we have started to put in these short-term uptrends, which we want to turn into intermediate-term uptrends into longer-term uptrends, is what we're going for. But, you know, we're still up above this trend line, and we're holding on to it. And if you guys have watched some of the tutorials I've done, trend line breaks are extremely powerful. Read about them. You can really learn a lot, and you can do well with them. And you can even see with the RSI down here, we're kind of in that symmetrical triangle. Higher lows, lower highs, just kind of bouncing around in here. So still just be patient. Obviously in the long term, guys, if you're a long-term holder or hodler of XRP, 30 cents is not bad at all. You know, I'm sure it'll go much higher in the future. It's down 2.46% today. So in the upside, I'd pay attention to that 50 moving average, and then I'd really pay attention to that 200-day moving average. We want to get up above that and start making closes up above it. And then to the downside, we look around that 25 cents. See if we could find some support. And then the last one, let's go to RAVENCOIN. If you guys could, hit that like, subscribe, all that. I really appreciate it. I know a lot of people wanted to do RAVENCOIN. Shout out to you, Nathaniel, if you're still watching this. I know you were wanting to see it, so we're going to throw this one up there. Alright, guys. Yeah, there was some volume came in there on RAVENCOIN. So right now we're overextended. On the 1 day, we're at 86 on the RSI. Now don't get me wrong. In cryptocurrency, I've seen the RSI go up to 98. So that's where, you know, guys, we're not market makers. Anything can happen in this. Traditionally, you'd look at an 86 RSI and you go, oh my goodness, that has to come down. But in cryptocurrency, it could push up a little higher. Now, what we're looking for, though, we had that great volume come in. We started to have this rounded bottom. Remember, guys, that's where the supply and demand shifts. And then all of a sudden you start moving to the upside, and now we're up above the 20 EMA and the 50 moving average, which is great. What we're seeing, though, up here is a rickshaw man. All right, and a rickshaw man's like a very long doji. So picture this little rickshaw man in here, and then there's your wicks. And look how high we pushed up to before coming back down. Look how low we got as well. So this is a major fight between the bulls and the bears. But if you see this at an uptrend, that's showing the indecision that we may not go up higher at this time. We may have a little bit of a pullback down into this area before we further this move. But I do believe there will be further moves to come in this RAVENCOIN once we cool this off. You know, we could definitely come back down to this 20 EMA. That is a great possibility. That happens a lot, guys. So pay attention to that. And also, if you were to throw the Fibonacci on here, do something like this, you could look for a pullback like right in this area, guys, that 50 right in here, then the 0.618, and then you see where that 20 is. So that's the type of things I like to look at. I wouldn't go chasing this. At an 86 RSI, I'm not saying, hey, I'm buying this with the hopes that it gets pushed up a little bit higher. I would wait for that cool down, that pullback, and then I would long it. Because this is most likely going to continue, especially with this surge of volume. You know, that's going to continue up after we have this cooling off period. So shout out to all you guys with RAVENCOIN. I'm going to keep my eye on that, but I'm going to be waiting for a pullback. Could it go higher? Absolutely. But you would not want to be the guy to buy into an 86 RSI on the one-day chart. You don't want to be that guy, because most of the time you may get lucky, but most of the time that's where guys are taking profits and you're a bag holder now. You know, that's how the game works. And then we'd look up above there at overhead resistance. And then, guys, there's some room to run, though, which is nice. I mean, this was such a sharp fall that we could really make it up on the backside here. So that's RAVENCOIN. Pay attention to it, guys. Wait for that pullback, in my opinion. I hope you like that we did these. I'm going to try to do them like once or twice a week where you all do some requests. Guys, been great to me, and I just want to give back to you the best I can. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I really appreciate each and every one of you. God bless, my friends.